Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Today is June 17th, 2026. We're going to call to order this select board meeting. In attendance, we have David Phil. We have Jason. Oh my God.
Yeah, right here.
Jason Kostick. I almost said Koski. I'm so sorry. Jason Kostick, myself, Amy Parsons, and Randy Iser. Molly Keegan is in France tonight, so she will not be joining us. All right, so starting 2.1, fire department.
Nope.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I haven't been the chair in years.
At least one.
All right. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of Acts of 2022 as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a remote and hybrid format. The public has been provided with adequate alternative means to access via Zoom, as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time. Nobody's indicated. All right. Additionally, the virtual hybrid nature of this meeting is for convenience only. The board is meeting in person in a public location. In the event that there is technical difficulties, the board will continue its meeting, notwithstanding the lack of continued hybrid access. All right. Carry on. 2.1 appointments. We have a fire department presentation. So we have with us this evening Chief Spank Nabel, and he's going to also introduce the new Deputy Fire Chief, Bob Flaherty, to the select board and present an update to us on the status of the department. And we do have the presentation available.
Will it be on the screen?
Well, to hopefully put on the screen for us.
I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, hi, Jennifer.
Good evening, everyone.
She left. Goodbye, Jennifer.
Oh,
I think she's gonna share a screen. I don't know.
Oh, she's gone.
Oh, there she. Okay, her name's on the
She's
screen.
right in the middle.
Can you all see it now?
Yes.
yeah. Can we do a presentation view? Oh, yeah. We can see it now.
It's better.
That's better.
Maybe. Is that better?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
we
think
all
there's any
have
way to
it.
make it better.
yeah,
Sort of shutting all the shades.
and there's nobody physically here that doesn't have a copy of it. So as long as those online can see it, we should be good to go.
Thank you for having us. Molly had asked that we put together a State of the Union, so we're calling it a State of the Department. Just to introduce again, I know we stepped up to meet you, but this is my new Deputy Chief, Bob Flaherty, Chief of Hatfield originally. Thank you for the folks that came out to this morning ceremony, and you get a little bit of the information. I don't know, he's going to be doing a portion of this, so he'll be able to give you some of his experience, and he's off to the races already for us, so it's been good. A lot of this stuff may look familiar to you, so it's kind of a refresher, but we updated it and put some new statistics and data in there for you. The state of the department, basically, we're going to review the current staffing structure that we have and the roster of our full-time and paid on-call members. We're going to review the current limitations that most of you are probably already aware of, but maybe the public is not, so they'll have an understanding of what our limitations are with our current staffing. We're going to discuss our return to the March 2025 full-time staffing level and structure and operation, hopefully by July 31st. if we can find folks that are interested in positions. We're gonna clarify any confusion surrounding our previous or proposed staffing model and illustrate its impact on the fire rescue and EMS services in the town of Hadley. We're gonna follow up on the tracks of potential service that we have presented. And that's basically so we can start discussing how we might be able to mitigate some of our overtime. The proven pros of our full-time fire EMS system and the scope. The deputy chief is gonna review his first 6 days, which is pretty full. And then the July 11th, 2026 transition succession plan, following my retirement. And the assignment of acting chief duties. The immediate acting chief duties, so Bob will be presenting on that and what we're discussing. The status of our inspections and what's going on in the pipeline right now in town. We've been quite busy lately. I was asked to put together the equipment inventory, including its locations, so we'll review that. And then there's been some questions on capital requests, so I put together revised our 10-year capital a little bit. It was pretty much status quo, and then also the status of our ladder truck. The status of key relationships, so agreements with Amherst, Northampton, Action, UMass, etc. And then we'll go through some statistics, potential revenue projections with our fire-based ambulance, and then additional data that we have, and then a small portion on goals, objectives, and initiatives, because that'll be passed on to Chief Flaherty for him to start putting together his goals and objectives if he moves to staff in his positions. And we'll have some time for questions. So again, currently we run 4 groups.
Can you scroll down to, we're on slide 5 now.
All right, staff and structure.
I have it on slide 5. Can you not see it?
Nope.
Now we see a white screen. Okay,
How about that?
that's good. That
Getting
works.
there.
Yep,
Right there.
perfect.
So currently we have 4 groups and we're doing 24-hour shifts. So it's a 24 on, 24 off schedule. And basically, as of today, we are down to 1 member per group. Firefighter Mater is deploying with the Air Force. He will be going out to Texas to start his training in firefighting. So he will be gone for the next 4 months. So we'll be missing him very much. But it's part of the service to our country, and we appreciate all that he has done. This is his second, his first deployment within the first deployed 2 years ago. So anyway, so we were able to cover that. We split up the group admin, so we were able to keep 1 per shift. So it's great having Bob on duty again. Him and I can go out the door on calls if need be. He's handling those calls to make sure that things are getting done properly. And then it allows me to stay back at the station and work to try and get caught up on the stuff we need to complete for the transition for me retiring. Again, the town, we continue to contract with Action EMS as our primary advanced life support. They are still operating out of the North Station, and we are still on top of all of their, all the requirements per contract. So we're constantly doing reviews of the service, and Bob will be taking over that. And Hadley A1, I can tell you, obviously, with our staffing model, we responded to 5 calls since January of 2026, and we've responded to 2 calls in the past 2 days. So we had 2 chiefs at Cooley Dickinson, because it was Bob and I, because we had our 1 firefighter was out on another call. So we were able to get to that patient quickly and transport to the hospital, and then Bob was out again today. So we're starting to be able to send that ambulance out and start bringing some revenues back in.
And just to be clear, Mike, A1 is the BLS, correct?
Correct. Yes. Any questions so far? So I just put this in here so you can see the makeup. So you have myself, the fire chief, deputy chief, who is a paramedic. He started June 8th. We have our captain, Captain Washkevitz. He's our vehicle maintenance officer. So he takes care of all the equipment. We have two acting lieutenants right now. So one of them is, actually they're both paramedics. One's our EMS coordinator, that's David Spafford, and the other one is our scheduling coordinator. And he's also working on data entry in our new fire systems that we have. And that's Michael Mazulis. And then we have one firefighter EMT basic, and he's our IT coordinator, that's Kyle Sedano. And then we have one additional firefighter EMT, and that's Ronan Modern. He will be deployed. And I apologize, it's not 8 months, it's actually it's about 4 or 5 months. And then we put together numbers for our P&O on call. We have lost a lot of our members just because they are just too busy. Most of them are on other departments now. We were fortunate enough to have Max Arvidsson, who was our full-timer. He agreed to remain on the call force, so he is responding to North Station as he lives over the line in Sunderland. So right now we have 14 total. We are actively recruiting. We've gotten a couple applications in. We just have to meet with the folks to see if they are going to meet the requirements. So we have 2 lieutenants that are first responders. We have 3 lieutenants that are EMT basics. We have 1 firefighter EMT basic in the medic program, that's Max. And then we have 8 firefighter first responders. However, 3 of them are juniors, and they'll be heading off to college in the fall. So we probably won't see them very often because most of them are either going out to Utah or Maine. But usually when they come back from the holidays, you might see them. So you see the totals at the bottom. I can tell you our 2 lieutenants, we have Rob Adair and Jeff Moriarty. Jeff is our tech rescue guru. He's on the state tech rescue team. He's great to have in-house. Rob Adair can basically move dirt and do everything and build a backhoe. The guy is just solid as a rock. He can operate all of our trucks, all of our pumps. It's really reassuring having them all in. These are the guys that have been here for 10 years plus. Our 3 lieutenants, Austin Eigelhart, Dan Casal, Nick Witowitz, also very solid. They all bring different things to the party. Nick Witowitz, IT. Austin's an electrician, master electrician, and Dan Casal is also, he works at UMass, and he's also has just extensive knowledge in IT work as well. And all of them just have a lot of experience in the fire service. And then our eight firefighters, and again, John Kinchla, around. He seems to be around just when we need him. He has his own business, a nursery, and a family, but he always does the best he can to show up, and we can't thank him enough for doing that. And there's many others that really step up. A lot of them, again, like I said, are employed with other departments now. We have Aaliyah Petrie. She worked for Action. She also is now full-time. She's full-time in Northampton. So our total right now is 21 members, which is a bit low for us. So our current response limitations and our safety concerns to the public and to our first responders. So 3 of the 4 shifts, now it's 4 of 4, have only 1 firefighter on duty. 1 shift, we hope we're hoping to get up all back to the 2 and then the 1 with 3, but that'll be forthcoming in this presentation. Our single person staffing, it just creates a significant safety concern during overnight and even daytime hours. I told you how I slept going out on a call, and luckily I didn't knock myself unconscious, but it's really tricky being in the station by yourself, having to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, get your turnout gear on, get on a truck, hope that a call force member might show up. So it's concerning. There's not going to be any immediate, assistance there. Unless somebody shows up, comes in and checks in. We've worked with our dispatchers, asking them that if they're not getting a response, to have somebody check in on the staff. But again, our police are extremely busy as well, and are probably out the door, at that point in time. So they wouldn't really be able to handle that. Our minimum staffing is insufficient to meet OSHA. We only have 1. The minimum staffing is technically supposed to be 4 for 2 in, 2 out. And again, we understand the challenges on that. And we've had a number of reported structure fires and some pretty serious motor vehicle accidents that it takes a lot of hands, and it can't be managed, or we can't fight a fire with 1 firefighter on scene. It's physically not possible. So it's resulted in delays while call force members, chief officers, or our mutual aid sources are responding to the scene. Our average response time from our neighbors, if it's a good day and they are not busy, is 15+ minutes. So if you think of a structure fire happening, that's a long time. Again, just continuing. So initial fire attack, search and rescue operations. We have been fortunate that everybody's been out of the structures for the ones that we did have. And again, it's just a concern. It's impacted our neighboring communities as well for the first time. And I don't know how long we actually had to say no to sending in a truck to Northampton for mutual aid because we couldn't staff the truck and I couldn't leave town. We needed to have somebody in town. And there just was nobody available to do it. Which isn't reassuring because usually folks are showing up when there's a mutual aid call for a structure fire. And maintaining minimum 24-hour coverage, or the coverage that requires overtime whenever the full-time member is absent due to illness, vacation, personal leave, training, or other approved time off. So we have to fill that position. Myself, now Bob, I was filling in daytimes whenever possible and covering it and then just trying to fill the overnight. But it's been a challenge. Obviously, you probably have seen the overtime. But again, that budget was cut in half and we only had $30,000 to work with for overtime for FY26, which that was never increased. So hopefully we can fix that with the new budget. Any questions so far? So just continuing on, the fire chief and now deputy chief and call force members have worked collaboratively to fill staffing vacancies and reduce the overtime like we were just talking about. Despite these efforts, current staffing levels continue to present operational and safety challenges for both the responders and the public. Our team approach to response to major medicals with Action Med 1 has been seriously impacted. If we have a major medical, the station no longer has a full-time member in it, and there's many times that person who's responding to that medical needs to get into the ambulance and assist either in the back or drive the truck. So that can be a challenge as well. So this results in requests for station coverage by full-time and call force members. If full-time comes in, that triggers overtime. And feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything. Current inability to respond to EMS second calls for service. Unless, again, myself and the deputy chief are in the station, that's put an additional strain on our mutual aid partners, and we have some data on that. We've been calling Amherst and Northampton an awful lot because the multiple calls that we've been having going on at the same time. Ambulance billing and incoming revenues has all but ceased. Hopefully that'll change now as a result of not being available to respond, and our projected increases in revenue following our transition to ALS has also gone on hold. So we are not seeing the ALS revenues. So that's the not so great news. So the return to March 2025 full-time staffing level and that structure that we're hoping our target date of July 31st. We've written it out for you so you can see how it would work on each of the groups again and which groups need to be filled. So group A right now is David Spafford and Kyle Sedano. Group B is Brian Washkevitz, who would have to rehire a firefighter paramedic or EMT. Group C is acting Lieutenant Fazulis, and we'll need to have a firefighter EMT or B for that group. And then group D would be the three. It would be lieutenant, paramedic, and then rehire a firefighter EMT or paramedic. We're trying to prep ourselves if we do that, if we get back on track with applying for that ALS license, so we can start bringing in that additional revenue. So that's the purpose of requesting EMTs or paramedics. So again, we'll have A1 returning to cover second calls for service when available. Paramedic license will hopefully be submitted when we have the staffing to support it and we've completed, the training that we need to get through to do that. And the fire chief to complete the lieutenant promotional exams and testing, which was put on hold. So we have all that prepared. It's just getting it back on track. I don't I don't think it's gonna happen before I retire, so it most likely be the acting chief. If Bob moves into that role.
What's
he would be
the,
handling that.
what's the minimum staffing to get to ALS that you need?
We would be doing, we have a PB waiver, so it's a paramedic basic, so it's one paramedic per.
Per shift.
So for the second calls, I think that's reasonable. If down the road you decide to transition to having our own full-time ambulance that's handling all the calls and that having action as the backup.
Mhm.
We would probably take a look at increasing that to a double medic, just because you don't want the burnout. For, if you have the same person that has to handle all the calls all the time as the medic.
Yeah.
Because normally you have more ALS than BLS calls. That would be something that we would probably be looking to transition to. I can tell you that they're, at my last fire chiefs meeting, they are currently reviewing, Medicare and Medicaid rates and, looking into potentially seeing some funding coming in from the federal government. And you're able to read that document, so tell me if I'm saying it wrong, because you're the paramedic EMS guru. But, basically, they're looking to increase the Medicaid rate up to a Medicare rate, or potentially up to a commercial rate. So we could start seeing some really big improvements in what we would be getting in for revenues, at the ALS level.
What's the rate that we hire a new firefighter at without an EMT or paramedic?
26,
Over 60.
24, 62.
I said $25. And then what's the rate that, or I guess what's the difference for the contract for a firefighter that has an EMT or a firefighter that has a paramedic?
It's probably about $52, I think, between the steps. And then obviously they have, it would be we put the skill, because obviously you take a look at what they have for experience.
Yeah.
And try and fit them in every single area. I can get you the actual numbers that were into the new contract for FY 27.
Yeah.
So there was the 3.5% step, and then this year was a 2%.
But on a basic level, you're talking $2 more, so $27 roughly for an EMT and 29-ish for a paramedic. Okay.
I can get those for you though. Great. So we have the job descriptions and postings ready to go. So we were just waiting, and I received word that I guess the vote was certified on Friday. We just wanted to confirm, and then also we're scheduling a meeting, myself, the town administrator, the accountant, finance director. We just want to make sure, we want to go through the numbers, make sure what's put into each of those line items, so that we're not shooting ourselves in the foot. We want to make sure that we have the funding for what we're looking to move back into.
Will the deputy be participating in that?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
The deputy's pretty much going to be participating in everything related to what I'm doing right now. We have some milestones that will be going in as far as inspections and things like that. But we have a short time frame, so it's every day it's a packed day.
So Mr. Phil, just to carry on a little bit about your questions about entry-level firefighter basic, or firefighter paramedic. Just so everybody's aware, there's also stipulations in CMRs, as far as OEMS says. So a paramedic cannot transport with a firefighter first responder. So that's part of this, is by being able to put the ambulance out there, you're going to need basics and paramedics to be able to do this. So the firefighter would be a little bit cheaper, then we would not be able to staff units at that time. So there's some limitations that are held by law.
Okay. So the next page you'll see is it's the return to the March 2025 staffing. So you can see the layout. I don't know if you want to go read all through that, or you good. So this is part of the, just to clarify what the department is. So the full-time and call force members that have the fire rescue EMS department, they're cross-trained professionals. So we handle structure fires, vehicle fires, auto extrications, tech rescue, swift water rescue, ice rescue, search and rescue, wildland and brush firefighting, hazardous materials response, along with just pretty much, somebody's cat stuck on the roof. That's called the fire department. I've had 2 of those in my career. And then in addition, these dedicated men and women are also professionally trained for medical emergencies. So they're EMT basics, or at a minimum, a number of our call force members are first responders. And that now, that takes some time to receive that certification. That's a 40-hour class with refreshers every year, and then CPR and defibrillator training. So again, we don't have a separate EMS division that's sitting in the station going out on second calls on our Hadley A1. This is one department. Right now, there's one person per shift. We would be up to 2 people per shift, and they would be handling calls to fires. And then if a second call for a medical comes in, we have to handle the call that's coming in. So if it's a medical, we're going to the medical. If it's a fire, we're going to the fire. If it's a car accident, it's a car accident. So we take it step by step. Each call has to be addressed in the order that it comes in. So, and then, mutual aid is always there if we get overrun. I put in the organizational chart from 2025. The only thing that's different now is we did have funding in that previous EMS budget for per diem firefighters. So we're actually, Bob's doing a review of potentially, so if we have that one shift with the 3, potentially using per diems rather than full-time employees during peak hours and, during the day, and have them coming in. We're working with the union on that. They're all about it, I think, as well. They understand that, the minimum is 1 right now, basically. So we can't get any lower than that. And I think they're looking at it as having the ability to have that third body in the station during the busy times, so that we can handle some of these calls. And then with Bob and myself, or Bob as the chief and the new deputy, or however it works out, they would be able to manage and mitigate this, but you wouldn't have the cost for the employee benefits. It would be a per diem rate.
Are we losing on-call firefighters because they feel like they're not getting paid enough?
That's never been brought forward to me. They get whatever the increase is to the full-time staff. They get that. So this year it's a 2% increase. But no, usually they're not doing it for that. They're doing it to help the community. I don't know if it would make a difference. I really don't. Not for the members that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Most communities, it just comes down to the lack of their time.
Okay. That's good, but bad to hear.
Yes, everybody is in the same boat, for sure.
So we just put this in again for the follow-up on the tracks of potential service. So our status quo, the 2 firefighters on shifts with 1 firefighter minimum. That's, pending. Again, staff of 3. That, again, if we went 3 per shift, our minimum would be 2. So we wouldn't have overtime issues. We would be able to decrease the overtime. I know what Chief Mason's went through with the police budget. And so again, we'd have the 3 on 1 each shift with a 2 firefighter minimum, and that's pending something down the road. And again, we would be continuing our contract with Action. Our Action runs through 2027 with them, with 1 option that we can add on after that. The second track that we had discussed back in March was increasing the staff to 3 for all shifts. Again, we would maintain 2, and we would see that decrease of overtime. Continue the contract with Action Ambulance. We were talking about some hybrid approaches to get us going through some additional calls to support with additional revenues coming in for the ambulance. If we move into an ALS level, you'll see where we would probably be getting requested mutual aid, because there's just not enough ambulances in the area right now. So that would probably also add to that. And then track 3 was the shoot for the stars. That was we would be meeting our OSHA requirements for the 4 on for the 2 in, 2 out, and that would be hiring 7 additional firefighters. We would maintain 4 per shift, and we would be moving to the ambulance. So you would have 2 that would be dedicated to the ambulance, as Action has, and then we would have to do either going on a fire truck for the second ambulance.
So number 1, status quo, it's really not status quo of right now. It's status quo as of last year. And with the override, we get to 1.
Yes.
Okay. just in case anyone's didn't see this last year.
And then for item 3, you said shoot for the stars. We all realize that the stars keep getting farther and farther away every day.
We understand. Yes.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure, because we wanted everybody to understand the potential. So if you're looking at the potential revenues of running our own ambulance service, bringing in $770,000 to $900,000 in cash, which decreases your cost for the fire department as a whole.
Mhm.
And you're getting the full service out of your department members because they're cross-trained as firefighters and emergency medical responders.
Yeah.
So that's why we're discussing that. We also, we went through all this, so the status quo, it's budget conscious. We do have comprehensive coverage. There is revenue potential. Obviously, we started that back today, or yesterday. The enhanced response, and again, hoping to be able to reduce the dependence on mutual aid. It's not to say it's going to eliminate it, but hopefully we'll be getting back to where we were at. Again, staffing challenges, the operational strain on leadership, because we're part of the, response still. We can't just sit in the station in our offices all the time. OSHA compliance, we're, hopefully if we have folks show up quickly, if not, we just have to wait for folks to catch up with us. So we have to kind of amend on what we're doing at a fire scene or an emergency, car accident or whatever. Safety risks, limited response capabilities, just increased workload and potential for fatigue, inadequate backup. Again, when we have a shortage of staff, sometimes it's hard to fill the minimum shifts, just because everybody's burned out from having to do it. One person gets injured, one person has to go out on military leave, then everybody else has to pick that up. Again, reduced training opportunities, and then the higher overtime costs, and community perception. The
And
3,
what is community perception?
just because of the higher overtime costs there, it brings up the questions of what are we doing? Why aren't we working on trying to fix that overtime? And so that is a con for us, because we certainly have been trying to mitigate that and manage it. It's just, it's really difficult to do.
Okay.
And then, the track 2, again, more pros, revenue potential, increased comprehensive coverage, enhanced response. Again, I feel it's budget conscious because you're going to see a decrease in the overtime. And the cons, the minute we dropped from 3 members to 2 per shift, we're back to, basically to track 1. Staffing challenges are just trying to find the folks that we can put into these positions. And then again, we still have some concerns of OSHA concerns for the 2 in 2 out rule. For an initial, again, this is for an initial fire attack or initial work on an emergency scene. And track 3, you can see pretty much everything got moved into the pros. So, and it's surrounded by green, so it's a good thing. Regulatory compliance, operational efficiency, reduced overtime budget, safety and backup, improved response times, versatility, flexibility, reduced fatigue and burnout. You can see all of those. And then again, the staffing challenges are just being able to find all those folks that are going to stay with us and not move on to the next department. And are we going to be able to find the bench strength out there? Because it's limited. Just a simple slide for you that we had in the last one again. So the proven pros of our full-time system. Again, we had really improved response times. We're trying to be as cost effective as we can. Our budget is a no nonsense budget. It's to the penny as best as we can for expenses and salaries. It enhanced coordination in emergencies. Again, improved community preparedness. Our folks are working tirelessly on updating our reporting system so that we have information on all our buildings, working with the assessor's office, going out and doing extensive, inspections of properties, adding all that into that data system. So if we're going to a call, we know where the first hydrant is. We know if they have propane, if they have natural gas, where the shutoffs are. All that is being populated into that as we as we push through inspections, and that's for both residential and commercial. This system also does all of our mandated nearest reporting. So basically, we have to report all of our calls to the federal government. If we don't, we actually get in a lot of trouble with the state, and then we have no access to any grant funding whatsoever. Again, just more information, our compliance with OSHA, increasing cash revenues from the additional ambulance calls, especially at an ALS level, decrease overtime and training budgets for staffing. We're gonna have more time in-house to get our training done. Training with one person is nearly impossible per shift. I mean, basically, they're doing their truck checks and they'll maybe go up to the gym, do their required workout or whatever, but it's really tough to pull a line off a truck by yourself, take a hydrant and try and do some of these, so you continue with muscle memory and everything. So that's been a bit of a challenge. So we're hoping that the day crews, when we get back to the 2 or the 3, that we'll be able to, get back into those daily drills. And Bob is an instructor at the academy and has a lot of experience with that. He brings that to the game too. I've worked with him on our Hampshire County basic training. So he's certified to do burn buildings. I mean, he brings a lot that we can really, if we're able to start bringing some of these recruits in, we can actually start getting them through some of this really, really difficult training that they have to go through just for basic firefighting and for EMS. So again, it'll improve overall teamwork and morale and decrease the turnover of our current firefighters to other agencies if we can show them like what we had before it was cut. I'll pass it off to Stephanie.
It's my turn. We give the chief a little break talking. So today is day 8 for me. I've already taken over a fair chunk of the fire prevention duties, which was part of the job when I was hired. It's allowed the chief to return, as he said earlier, to some more of those administrative functions, and I'm able to go out and do the inspections, responding to emergency calls, which is definitely able to help him in some of his workload. We're working together on doing the training of commercial properties. As I had mentioned during my interview, I don't have a lot of experience on the commercial side, but I have the background to be able to pick it up, and I know certain things that we need to be looking for. I just need to get brushed up on that a little bit more. As mentioned before, last week, we were actually placed Halley A1 in service. We both went out and we did a medical call, were able to get the transport, which ultimately generates revenue. Due to my level of care, I was able to determine that we didn't need the paramedic intercept that was ultimately dispatched because of the initial nature of the call. So we were able to do that. So the revenue will come all into the town of Hadley as opposed to having to pay some back to the town of Amherst, which is definitely an added bonus. A couple of the other things are, I had mentioned this during my interview as well. I'd love to move away from all of the paper. It's just a lot less cluttered in the office, but it's also putting everything in this one system. So moving our fire inspections and all of our fire permits into the electronic format using the current software that we're using, which is called First Do. And that's available at any place that you have a cell phone or a tablet that has either internet or a cellular connection. So it's really, really handy. All of our apparatus have a mobile MDT in the truck. So all that information is there. One of the other things would also help our admin assistant, but also help with the paperwork, is moving basically all of the payments to online payments using the town's Unipay account. We will have a separate, we already have it for annual inspections and dumpster permits. I'd like to try to move all of inspections and all permits to be paid online. Generates a simple email. You can save it. You can move it right over to the program. And basically you're done instead of having to make copies of checks and put them into the chief's office and my office and so forth. It just streamlined the process. In my other department that I came from, I was using this exact same setup. And I can tell you over the last 6 months, I went from stacks of papers this tall to about 4 or 5 pieces of paper, and I was able to process things even at home because it's all coming to email as opposed to waiting for mail to come into the station. So it's very good. So as mentioned, streamline the process. It will save staff time, also the end user time. Speaking from experience, talking to a lot of the realtors and a lot of the propane vendors and oil vendors, they're used to doing these online payments. So this isn't going to be nothing new for them. And they would actually prefer it. They think it's a fantastic plan. So also in the first few days, we've been able to do, because of having a little bit of extra staff now with me there, we're able to go out and do some community outreach into the schools. We've had a visit to the Hadley Elementary School with their pre-K, and we did tours of the ambulance or the fire truck rather. We let them spray a little bit of water, and then it was actually a pizza party for them as well. They had run a water raffle, so that was part of it. This week we had the second grade coming over to the station. I believe it was that one of their field trips got a little bit screwed up on them. So in turn, they were able to come to us. Being that I was there, the chief was able to stay in his office. He had meetings and so forth. The on-duty staff, one call member, and one of the interns that just graduated, along with Sergeant Romano, we were able to basically keep all of the kids contained. There was 37 kids. We gave tours of both sides of the station. They looked at the ambulance. We did a donning drill for them, and then we were able to, spray some water out in the backfield, and the kids loved it. I think without the staffing, we wouldn't have been able to do some of those things, and the kids absolutely loved it. On top of those things, I've been looking at the ambulance service zone plan, looking at the contract with Action, just so I can get up to speed on it, understand a little bit more about what's in there. Looking at the collective bargaining agreement, I had actually already read through about 3 or 4 times before I started here, but I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I do have experience in collective bargaining agreements. I have worked for Amherst Fire for 10 years, so I do kind of understand it. Looking at the job descriptions and the job postings that we're hoping to get up in the very near future. Fire and EMS standard operating procedures and guidelines for the department. It's one of the things the chief's been working on for a long time, but they are very, very time consuming. So I kind of brought some of my other knowledge from the other places that I've worked, and we're going to tailor them to make sure that they still absolutely fit Hadley. But nobody wants to reinvent the wheel, so we just need to kind of review them and make sure they're all set. I don't think that's going to take too long. So we were awarded an FY26 firefighter safety equipment grant through the Department of Fire Services earlier this year. And the chief tasked me with making sure that we can get all the pieces and parts ordered. It has a June 30th deadline. I was able to go out, get some quotes, and all of those things are done. And I actually expect most of the items within the next 3 days, probably. Some of them have already started to show up. So we'll be
just so you know what those are, if you want to tell them. I mean, this is good news because we locked down on our budget to try and cover some line items, but you want to tell them what we actually received that'll help that.
So we were able to purchase 2 sets of firefighter turnout gear, which go for over about $4,000 per set. We were able to get a 4-gas meter. One of our meters is kind of aging out. The sensors only last so long, and then you can't do anything with them. So there was that. We were able to get 3 thermal imaging cameras. So that way both chief's vehicles can have them in there. So when we get on scene, we can do a quick size up, gives us the opportunity to do that 360 view of the house. And then one of our other thermal imaging cameras is also starting to age out. I believe it's 14 years old. So it's coming to the end of its life. We're not able to service it anymore. So we needed to replace that.
Starting to freeze up. So you'll look at, I'll put it on you and you'll freeze up if I move over here and you're still on it over here. So it can be confusing in a fire system.
So all those things should be in, like I said, within the next few days. The gear is probably the last thing that might be the last week of June, but we're based on the vendors for that one. And then as the chief mentioned before, I've already started actively responding to fire and EMS calls. We were looking at some of the data today and realizing that since January, today was, response number 6 for Hadley A1 for the year. And I've already been on 2 of them in 8 days of employment. So I think we're heading in the right direction, and I'm really happy that we're able to get that moving. Any questions on what I've done in the first 6-8 days? Okay. So the July 11th, I'll take this right.
I'll just do the first one. So again, this is your decision on how you want to move forward following my retirement. I'm just asking for you to consider it. I think I'm making a recommendation to you. But if approved by the select board, it's in the intent and the hope of the department. I can tell you if you come by and visit with the members of the department, they'll be saying the same thing that we're saying here tonight. To have our deputy chief assume the duties and responsibilities of the fire chief under MGL 148 section 4 in an acting fire chief role, and do it for a period of time. If it's some sort of a term or something, I would request that executive session be put together to meet with Bob to discuss that. Again, we're getting close to July 11th. So we should probably get that scheduled. So maybe you can have a conversation and, he can review more of his goals and objectives as a deputy. And and see if that's something that, you know, fits with what you're thinking for this transition. I can tell you it's gonna be a challenge to find a fire chief with executive leadership skills at this point. We're seeing where there's a lot of, you know, you'll see firefighters, lieutenants, so folks that have line, you know, command experience, not to say they're not great firefighters, but he brings a lot to the pot with running his own ambulance service in Hatfield. You know, his training experience, everything else, he's a complete package for having the experience as an executive leader, being chief in Hatfield for 6 years. So.
So with that, I'd be more than happy to meet with the board. You know, I look forward to the opportunity and show why I should be potentially appointed as permanent chief in the future after an acting role. One of the big things would be is that if I was to be put into that acting role or at some point made the permanent chief, I would need to advocate the need to fill the deputy fire chief. As I mentioned, finding somebody that is very similar to what I have for my capabilities would probably be my biggest challenge, but that would be what I would want, because otherwise we would be taking a step backwards if we go anything less. So finding somebody that's a paramedic, maybe they don't necessarily have all of that executive leadership qualities that I've had the opportunity to have, but being able to move the department forward in the first 8 days, just being able to handle the inspections and the permits and things like that, and the amount of paperwork and emails that are going through both of our folders. I don't, honestly, I'm not sure how he actually did it for the last 10 months, watching him and seeing the stacks of papers when I came in on day one. So I would absolutely advocate to try to fill that deputy's position as quickly as possible to help with continuity of the department and keep it moving. As you know, fire prevention is a huge thing here in Hadley, and it's really hard for probably one person to do while they're also handling a lot of administrative functions as well.
Mike, what's 148 for?
Chapter 148 is the fire laws, and it's appointing the fire chief.
Oh,
Having
okay.
a fire chief.
It's the delegation of authority from the state fire marshal.
So does every fire chief have to be appointed under that MGL, or is it because the acting would be assuming fire chief roles?
All fire chiefs, that is what delegates their authority. From the fire marshal delegates his authority to the fire chief, and then the fire chief can then delegate it down to other members of the department.
So like for inspections and things like that, right now you have the authority and he would need it.
He has it from me now,
Delegated.
but if he moves into an acting chief role, you would need that delegation.
Cool.
From the state fire marshal.
There's one person for each community or each fire department that would ultimately have that delegation, and then they can hand it down.
Got it.
So should I be made the acting chief in the future? Some of the immediate goals, we've been reviewing the applications. The applications are prepared and the plans to post for the current vacancy. We truthfully hope to be able to do that within the next couple of days. We know it's going to be a process to get those folks in. One of the questions that was posed to us by Ms. Keegan was, how would I oversee that as somebody that's kind of new to the community and new to the department? My background being that I've gone through multiple hiring and multiple promotional processes as my time as chief in Hatfield. So I feel really comfortable being able to work through that process and work with the assistant town administrator, making sure that we get those through. And that just goes in the bullet point to starting the onboarding process, putting the selection committee together, making sure that we pick the best candidates that are going to fill the roles that we need. A couple of the other things would be is, you know, hopefully we're able to get those 2 people per shift back once we get this hiring process done. And now we can really start hitting those second medical calls in the town of Hadley. As we get further into here, you'll see the numbers of how many we've missed. And that every time we miss a call, that is obviously lost revenue. So we want to make sure that we address that. We've started just some very preliminary discussion about staffing policy and MOU between the town and the local 5486, just to make sure we have safe staffing. And then obviously that's going to be something that would come to you folks as well, because it would be a contract. But we seem to be on the right page with it, with the union, making sure that we have adequate staffing here. And then one of my things, I did this in my previous department, and we talked about earlier, is the per diem positions. It gives us a little bit of opportunity to fill vacancies. Any union position needs to be offered to the union members first. But if they get tired or they just choose to not work that particular overtime shift, we would still like to maintain. having those per diem employees is gonna save you significant amount of money, because now you're not paying the overtime for a 12 or a 24-hour block. So we still have the staffing, but at a little bit of a lower cost.
Okay, so could you clarify something for me, please? If there's a shift that needs filled and it's going to be, you ask somebody in the union and it's going to be overtime, you have to ask them even if we have to pay overtime?
They have to be asked first.
They do have to, they have first right of refusal per the collective bargaining agreement with the town. Any other questions on that?
So we were asked to put together a status of inspections and projects that we have going on, and there's quite a bit and what's in the pipeline. So we currently have several ongoing and incoming projects that will require significant plan reviews and multiple inspections in coordination with the building department. That's been working out quite well, working with Mr. Washkevitz and Mr. Harrington. We've been getting a lot of inspections done. Econo Lodge, they're doing the conversion to the residential apartments. So there's some substantial work that's going to be done to the sprinkler system, fire alarm. You know, they're converting some of the rooms into 2 rooms, you know, so they'll be taking structural walls down, which may impact the layout of sprinkler heads. There is some piping in the attic of concern that was, you know, it was a lower quality piping. So they've been seeing some, you know, failures to the sprinkler piping. So they're going to probably be replacing that. So that's a bigger project we have coming. We have the 2 banks coming, Bank of America and Citizens Bank. Both of them will have fire alarms. The conversion, right now they're installing sprinklers in the back section of Howard Johnson's as part of what used to be Howard Johnson's. It's now the Renaissance extended stay. And those are being converted into apartments as well for extended stays. So there's the front part of the building is currently sprinklered, but they're laying out those. There's going to be addition of some kitchenette stuff. So we have to make sure that we're protecting that, and that, you know, the sprinkler and fire alarm systems are appropriate for that use group. We have some proposed over 55 apartments, the condos potentially coming up at the Hampton Inn shops. That'll be a substantial plan review and inspections. And then potential for East Street, similar to East Commons Drive. We have renovations going on in Goyang, pretty substantial renovation to that interior for the kitchen. So that we just did an inspection on the underground propane tank. And then we have numerous photovoltaic energy storage plans that are coming in weekly. That it takes time because we have continuous issues with the installers. They're required to have setbacks for us to be able to put ladders on the roof still and have access. And we have to make sure that they're doing that correctly and that they're just complying with the fire regulation that governs energy storage systems in these solar arrays. So that's nonstop. We have Dave's Hot Chicken, Burnt Code, Pop-Up Bagel. Those are all coming in right now. Dave's Hot Chicken, we're starting to get over the hump. That's been a bit of a challenge. And then just our regular inspections. We're behind on our annual inspections because I couldn't keep up with it all. So that's going to be a challenge for Bob too, to start getting out into some of these businesses. We just did a final inspection over at the new archery place in the mall. That it went into where Pins was. So we just completed that inspection. And again, it's daily we're chipping away at that. I'll be taking Bob out next week to do a number of the gas stations. That's supposed to be an annual inspection as well. And that's a more specialized inspection because we're inspecting all the suppression above the gas, the gas dispensing areas. And then there's all the equipment inside the building associated with that. The underground storage tanks, those are all permitted. So it's just a lot. So we're going to get him up to speed on that because I was surprised to hear there aren't any gas stations in Hatfield. So
20 years ago.
So any questions on that?
No.
I was also asked to put together an equipment inventory, including the locations of it. So again, our center station, right now we have our engine 1, and I put down exactly what they are, what they provide. Our engine 4 is at our center station. That's a 2017 Pierce Arrow. And that's also a rescue. So that has that pretty much has everything. It has our jaws of life, our battery operated Hurst tools, stabilization equipment, tech rescue equipment, ice rescue. It has all the speedy drive for when we go out and there's spills at these motor vehicle accidents. We have an onboard storage for that where we can just pull it's just a hopper. We can pull it, fill up buckets and get it out quickly. And then it's also set up as a BLS EFR, so it's an emergency first response vehicle. So it's licensed through the state, so our folks can actually provide BLS treatment on scene. There still needs to be an ambulance coming. We can't transport it, but we can operate as EMT basics. The rescue squad that was donated by the Hadley Firemen's Association, you've seen that running out the door quite frequently now. Because we only have a single person per shift, that does have a set of, it's called a combi tool. So it's a cutter and a spreader on an electric Hurst tool. So if they have to go to a car accident, they can at least start doing something. And then it does have a smaller pump and a smaller tank. So it can handle, a smaller brush fire and some sort of an initial attack if they're out on the road and they have to go to it, or a car fire. And then we have our Hadley A1. It's the 2009 Chevy C4500 that we purchased from Northampton for $25,000, I think it was. That has a power load stretcher, which is extremely expensive, but we were fortunate to get it as part of it. And then we also have a LifePak 15 plus monitor, which is it's huge. That was going to be one of the bigger expenses if we were transitioning to ALS. But we have all this stuff already, so that's why we were going to see that extensive cost. We have our two brush trucks. One's the 2015 Ford F350 with a skid unit. The department we got that at a reduced rate out of it was what do you call it?
Wasn't it where?
No, it wasn't out of where. It was a salvage title, and then we just basically restored it and put the skid unit on it, and it's very functional. It's great. It'll be a very expensive truck new. Our Kubota that you see on the right, that also has a smaller skid unit. That's the one that we can use up on the mountain. We do have tracks with it. The only issue with it, it doesn't have a turbo in it, so it's a little bit, it just doesn't move very well. So you'll see in our capital plan what we might request, but I think we could get a good return on if we were to sell this because we've taken good care of it. We have the 2018 utility truck, and that's built out with first responder equipment. And then it also has a box in the back for vehicle repair. So if we have to get out to a scene because something happens on the scene and we have to do some minor repairs, have a tire change or something like that, and we have some basic tools in there that Brian can use to make those repairs. My car it's a 2021 Ford Expedition, has a command package in the back so that you can set up an incident scene. I have my own air pack on board, defibrillator, first aid in bag. Pretty much, I have everything in that car. Complement of radios, and it does have a tri-band radio, which allows us to, if whoever is taking on that car, basically if we have to go up to Sunderland for mutual aid, it has the ability he can transfer to that high band. Basically, it's an 800 radio system, so he would be able to make those communications with them. And then we also have car 2, which is the car the deputy is currently using. That's a 2015 Ford Expedition. Again, that was originally the chief's car. That does have a smaller command package in it, also airbag and defibrillator, and a complement of radios. We have our 2006 Ripcraft 19-foot rescue boat. It has a center console, 115 horsepower motor, and the guys just went out a few drills ago onto the river and did some cold water rescue on that to just a refresher, getting some of our newer folks used to operating on the river. And then I apologize, didn't have a picture of it, but our Wells Cargo 2015 Wells Cargo command trailer and backup mobile dispatch, which was a big thing for us when we were going through the issues with our old generator. And that was received as a FY14 state earmark. Our state representative, Senator State Rep Sidek, got that for us. And so that was a very good addition. It also is utilized if we have to open up a shelter, a regional shelter. That's the trailer that's used to transport all the equipment that we have, our regional cache of sheltering equipment at the mall. That's what we use to get it over to Northampton, or if we have to set something up here. So that's what.
Question regarding the Kubota.
Yes,
Where does it live?
it's at Center Station.
But it's on the ground? It's not sitting on a trailer ready to go?
No, because we can't leave it outside.
Oh.
So we just don't have the space for the trailer.
Okay.
outside. And it's not a huge time frame to get it onto the trailer. But we don't have to move the station right now.
So North Hadley Station, it's the old engine breeze, it's a 2006 Seagrave Marauder. We had the Tank 1, so that was another truck that was built in-house, saving several $1,000s as well. That has 1,250 gallon tank on it and a portable pump. The pump is starting to have some issues, and that's also one of the things that's in the capital plan for a couple of years. It's getting a little bit more. And then the M5. At this point, it is parked a little bit to the side of our station. It's not some piece of equipment that we're taking out on a regular basis, but it is still a good piece of equipment to have at this point.
But our A2. Yeah, I don't know. So
And then Hadley A2, it's actually, I believe the description got carried down. It's actually a Ford F-350, and that's currently parked at North Station inside, so we can keep it protected a little bit. It had been sitting outside for a couple months, but now we moved it up there. And that would be for, once we get the ambulance system up and running, hopefully we'd be able to put 2 trucks on the road, whether both BLS, both ALS, or a combination. So that's already here. And that was another purchase. I believe it was only 75,000
with all the equipment.
with everything in it, as opposed to now that same truck was probably gonna go for about 450,000.
Any questions? So the capital requests, again, so the Ford F-150 administrative vehicle, we actually had that in the capital plan 2 years ago. But we saw the opportunity to get that ambulance, so we deferred that and utilized that capital money and put it into the ambulance instead. We are in desperate need of replacing our car 2. I didn't want to put a picture in here for liability purposes, but basically it was a freebie from Department of Conservation and Recreation, the Bureau of Forest Fire Control. Basically, the program that they have, we can bring in equipment, but then we ultimately will give it back to them when we're done with it. It's definitely getting tired and the rust on it. We have some frame issues with it. So it would be the plan to move that vehicle back to DCR, and then car 2 would move into that car 3 position, and this administrative vehicle would then become the chief where the deputy chief.
Okay, so there's a little confusion here. You got 2 car 2s. You're talking about car 2 here, and then you've got a car 2.
Oh, sorry,
above.
car 3. My apologies.
We'll take off.
Sorry.
Okay, I just want to,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Understand.
Car 3 is a 2007 Ford Explorer. Car 2 is a newer Ford. So my apologies for that. We also have for FY 2028, our Cascade system that we use to fill our air packs, our air bottles. We have consistent testing of air. We have consistent maintenance of it. We do biannual maintenance on it. The folks that are doing that, they're no longer making the parts for this. So we're going to start seeing where it's going to be difficult if anything happens with it. So we want to take a look at replacing that because it is quite old now. We received that as part of a grant. And again, it's something that we can take a look at grant opportunities to see if we might be able to do that, or maybe a state appropriation, but we're going to have to figure out a way to replace that. Our 2006 Seagraves that you see that's up at North Station, we try and run a 30-year truck. Again, trucks are still taking 3 to 4 years to build. And then again, with getting it passed through, that would be the next truck that we would be looking to replace. The other option was what we had made a recommendation of keeping our Seagraves ladder, the Quint. So it's a pump with a ladder on it. Folks think that it's just a ladder. It's not, it does everything. We were gonna restore that truck. We were gonna have it recertified, which would give us an additional, 10, potentially 10 years with that truck,
Mhm.
and push the request for we would move that engine 3 down the road and move that ladder truck up north. So that's an option that we could have for discussions. If not, we want to make sure that it was in here, just so you're aware, because usually it sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get it approved, and then it's the process. It's a good 3 to 4 year build time. And again, that price is spec'd out based upon $100,000 worth of equipment, and the truck itself. It's basically they're going up about 5% a year. So again, these trucks, what the truck that we used to be able to get for 450,000 is now 1.1 or just under 900 without the equipment. The ALS ambulance is in there, but we understand that if we can start bringing in revenues with second calls, or if we start taking on more with ALS, we would start putting some of that funding aside to start chopping down on that. But we are going to have to take a look at some point of eliminating that the Northampton ambulance. But again, it's just in here because it's been in there just as reference to you. And again, there's potential for grant funding for that as well through AFG. So it's in there to just memorialize what we have coming down the road. The Brush 2 replacement, we had just talked about that, the Kubota. We're looking at a 2-door side-by-side Polaris style. We would be able to reuse the same skid unit that we have in the Kubota. And Belchertown I got the number from the Belchertown fire chief. He just got one of these. Amherst, I believe, received one. So we put that into 2028 again. We'll be researching, seeing if there's any way we can get any kind of grant funding for it. I don't know if we can on that. So that would be low on the priority list for AFG. The tanker truck, the pump on it is definitely limping along right now. We just can't not have that thing ready to go. That's first due for out of water district. That's our water supply. If we have a fire down on Aquavita or Honey Pot or certain other areas where we have low water, and we've been having some issues. Brian's been working on that thing consistently, but it's old. So that's the estimate for replacing that, and we are looking for hopefully to replace that in FY27. Mike and I, we met with Linda on this. We had a capital request in for $4 million to do updates to the center station for adding space. We know that's not feasible. So what we're trying to do is trying to keep up with our 1996 building because we have issues. We were just able to finally replace the rear doors that were original to the station, the fire department doors and the police doors. So now we have insulated and new, we couldn't even open the doors because the openers had failed. So we were gonna have to replace that whole setup. So that capital, that's what we're using this capital money for. So we had $75,000 that we received 2 capital plans ago, and that's gone for a number of projects. And I can tell you that we're really going to need to do something for you may have heard about our sewer ejector. So we did a repair. It's probably going to be close to $6,000 or $8,000 just to keep this thing running, but it needs to be replaced. And the estimate has come in at over $70,000 to about $77,000. And then our fire alarm system is also original to the building, 1996. It's not supported anymore, and we've had to jerry rig it because it's been failing, going off or not going off, and then when it does, it triggers all the doors to open in the station. So we've had to disconnect and reconnect and we've had the fire alarm company in there, and it's time. It's life has come to a close. So and that's probably about a $25,000 replacement because we can't reuse a lot of the equipment in there because it's not compatible with the new the new panel.
Yeah.
And then we've had this in for a number of years as well. The driveway at our center station it's in pretty rough shape. Talking with Scott about it, they've been really good about trying to keep up with the drainage systems, doing the repairs because we've had collapses on it. So when that happens, they'll come out and rebuild it. But at some point we are gonna have to look at getting that redone. And that also included adding some additional parking space on the south side so that we could get our cruisers actually onto pavement versus up on the grass, to try and extend the life expectancy of that as well, so that we're not parking in the grass as much. It included installing a concrete area where we can put our dumpsters so that those aren't sitting on the bare ground, and be able to put a containment area around it. So it's more than just putting a coat of pavement down. It was actually redesigning and taking a look at how we can maximize parking. So that's what we had for capital. I was asked about to give a status update on our new Quint, the ladder truck, 105 foot. This again is a pumper, a ladder, has a water tank on it, 500 gallons. So it is in process. However, we're in a queue right now. They have not started design on this yet. So the engineering has not begun. I just checked in with the salesman this week. The estimated completion date is still December of 2028. Once they start the design, there is the potential of maybe moving it forward a little bit. However, that's right now the earliest that we will see it. We have not made any payments on this. There's been questions about storage fees. There's no storage fees. There's no nothing at this point. Our first payment we have the opportunity to make a payment after buildup of the frame. If we make that payment, we get some funding back. So we would have a conversation with Linda to see if that would work. But as of right now, we have not expended any money. The truck committee and the fire chief, whoever that may be, they will have to head out to Wisconsin when that engineering is done. They'll go out there as a truck committee and review all that engineering to make sure it's to spec. And I mean, the spec that we have it's hundreds of pages of, down to everything. Yeah.
So fire trucks are not cookie cutter?
No. And we build a 30-year truck. So we have galvanized frame rails. We do everything to make these things last as long as possible. So, I was asked to put together the status of our key relationships and agreements. Emerson Northampton Fire, obviously, they have been extremely supportive of our current situation. However, we are in renewal process for our mutual aid and intercept agreements for our EMS services. And I can tell you that they both have limits. So the limit's 30 calls per year. And after that, they send us a bill. And that can be anywhere from $250 to $500, depending on the department. They've been gracious not to be doing that yet. We have not signed off on the mutual aid agreement because we have some questions about our action going mutual aid to them. So does that, if we're at 30, does that go back to 29? Is this something that we need to renegotiate with Action about, because they are technically, as part of their contract, supposed to have a second ambulance available? We're hoping by getting our ambulance back in line that we will start decreasing that need to ask. And again, the mutual aid just for fire calls, that's been challenging too. And we want to make sure that we're there for our neighbors as they are there for us all the time. So again, I think with the return to the previous staffing levels, it'll be a lot less of an issue. And again, we'll be meeting with the Amherst and Northampton fire chiefs to review our mutual aid and intercept agreements. Action EMS has been operating in status quo with the fire chief and EMS coordinator. We're continuously reviewing the operation of the service and confirming that deficiencies and complaints are investigated, answered, and reported to oversight committee. That's daily. If I will get notified if there's ever a response that's over 10 minutes. It is then sent to Dave Spafford. He gets the same email. He checks on it 9 times out of 10. It's just a dispatch logging issue of when it was catted, or sometimes we have calls down in Hockenham, up on the top of the mountain, and it's physically impossible to get there under 10 minutes. Wintertime, major storms, things like that. So We take a look at every single one of them though, to make sure that they are meeting the contract. We did have a couple issues that I've notified the chair of the oversight committee. Molly was notified with where we were dropped to a BLS level without the notification to myself and our dispatch center, which caused a little bit of an issue because we were requested mutual aid at an ALS level and they didn't realize that we didn't have one in the station. So we've clarified that, corrected it with the owner, and again, that's been reported. It'll be presented at the next oversight committee as well. So our current contract runs through June 30th of 2027, and again, we have a 1-year option to continue with them following that. And we have been advised that we are on track for meeting the threshold for reimbursement of most or all of the contract rate for FY26. So our contract rate this year is $150,000. So we are tracking currently. We have a 3-month look back after June 30th, as there'll be, if we have a call on June 30th, they need the time to process that. So after 3 months after the close of business for that fiscal year, they continue to bring in those revenues, and we'll see what we get for our rebate that we get annually. We certainly have seen that our call volume has been quite extensive. And again, the final one is the status of key relationships with UMass. And it's been a challenge with UMass. I can tell you the inspection and plan reviews for the projects over there. So right now we've just wrapped up the PVTA bus garage expansion. And so basically under building code, the fire chief is responsible in that community for doing those plan reviews and making sure that, the fire protection equipment and everything that's installed, I'm supposed to be a part of that review. There was some confusion as to who was the authority there, but the state building commissioner or inspector has made it very clear that if it's in Hadley, it's Hadley. If it's Amherst, it's Amherst. I can tell you that it was brought up about the addresses for properties that are in Hadley on the campus. They have been changed to Amherst. So it's made it confusing. We've had requests for Knox blocks and they can't find, they search the Mullins Center, and now instead of it saying Mullins Way Hadley, it says Mullins Way Amherst. And so now the Knox box is being sent to Amherst. So again, it's just stuff that, we had, there was an MOU drafted that I have not signed because I feel that we have a liability to that. We are responsible for our community. We've always had a mutual aid. Like we both always go to calls at the university just because of what we're protecting there. If something's going to happen at the central heating plant, which is in Hadley, it's not going to just be Hadley going to it. It's going to be Hadley, Amherst, Northampton, everybody. And that's the way it always was. So we're trying to work back with that. The new chief, Chief Stromgren, has been great with communication. So I think we're working through this. I can tell you that we've also had an issue with fire watch details. So the Mullins Center, they have some pretty significant events. There's a policy that I worked on with members of the HNS and the Mullins Center back in 2007. And it basically goes through the process. If they're having these bigger concerts, the spring concerts where we have, 7,500 people in a dark, Mullins Center, and the fire alarm system is shut off. They shut off the smoke detectors and the fire alarm in that area. So an EH&S member, environmental health and safety member from the university, is responsible to sit at the panel and cannot move. They are the ones that are acting on behalf of the fire alarm. Mass General Law 148 requires that and building code requires that if you're putting a system on test, you have to notify the fire chief of that community, and the fire chief has to issue a permit for altering or shutting off fire protection equipment. And then there's conditions and restrictions as a part of that permit. They also have a liquor license through the town of Hadley there. And one of the conditions is for these bigger events. And again, it's very clearly put forward in the policies and procedures of how we do it. We're not doing it for, we're not asking for some of the basketball games. If it's a packed house, I get it. But this is for, when we have dark, loud music, that kind of stuff, where we have a professional firefighter that is walking the floor, that is able to go to the ice rink, which is all connected as part of this building. If something's going on in there and the fire alarm's going off in that section, do we need to dump the whole building or can we get eyes on it first? So that fire watch is actually critical. And again, it's also for the football games. We have the fireworks coming up for the Park and Rec Department in Amherst, and those are all in Hadley, and they're all staffed by our staff and permitted. And the state fire marshal's been involved with this. And again, I'll be reviewing this with the new town administrator. I have all of it documented, and our state senator and state rep have been very supportive of it. And I know that the state fire marshal, we're trying to figure out a way to manage and get through this. So I'll be passing it off to the new chief, and they can take that on and keep rolling with that. And then the last sections are just some billing data for you. We don't have the new FY 25 and 26 yet for you, but that's what we had in the last our last presentation. And again, we are at a contract rate of 150,000 for FY 26. So that dropped from 180,000 down to 150. We were asked to work with Action to put together a revenue projection if we were to take on our own ALS. So this was actually put together by Action. So this is from March of 2025. So just to give you a refresher of what we could potentially be bringing in for net revenues based upon ALS transports and how they're seeing that funding is coming from your Medicare, Medicaid, and regular insurance rates. So that's some more data for you on what potential cash revenues we could be seeing. We also did a total call data comparison for Hadley A1 for 2024 to 2026 year to date. So you can see in 2025, we responded to 155 calls. We had 109 transports and 46 refusals. Again, that didn't cover all of the second calls for service. So there's still mutual aid coming in even on top of this. And then 2026, you can see we had a bit of a drop off. We had 2 transports, 3 refusals, and 5 total calls, plus the 2 that we've done in the past couple of days. So we're hoping that we can get those numbers back up again. The next slide is Hadley Fire Department, the 2025 calls by type. And this is also in the annual report. So if you have the annual report, you can see all this as well. So again, 2,191 calls. So since March of 2025, Hadley Fire's full-time staffing has decreased by 50% with the loss of 5 full-time firefighters, 20% increase for the last 5 years. Hadley Fire's call volume has increased by that 20%. And those calls don't include, those are response calls. It's not including me going out on inspections, me doing a propane tank inspection. That data is not part of that. This is strictly emergency responses. You can, again, a lot of this information is also in the annual report for 2025. So we had a total call volume in 25 of 2191, an 8.8% increase over 24. Lower percentage attributed to lower staffing and increased mutual aid. 900 fire responses and 1,291 EMS calls. We had 592 overlapping calls. That means 2, 3, 4 calls all going on at the same time that we have to try and manage and get resources for. We gave mutual aid, so we went out 37 times to our surrounding communities: Northampton, Amherst, Granby, Pelham. So 37 calls were requested of us, Sunderland. And then mutual aid received. We had 17 calls where we brought in, this is fire now. We brought in mutual aid partners to assist us with calls. EMS mutual aid, given we in-house, we did not do any on our own. This is our ambulance, not Action. Action has been doing mutual aid with Amherst. And then the EMS mutual aid received, you can see the next slide. You want to go through this one?
Sure. So as you can see, this is from December 1st of 25 to just a couple of days ago. And you can see the number of mutual aid coming into the town of Hadley for EMS, with Amherst Fire covering the highest percentage at 62.5%. Northampton is 26, Action Medic 2, is 14. And then we have some that it might have been South County, could have been another service that was coming in, Granby, South Hadley. So that's a small number, but 112 total mutual aid responses in just a little over a 6-month period. So it's a relatively high. And then on the bottom, it just shows you for reference as how many of those were actually transported to the hospital, how many got refusals, and then if there was something that was an other. So maybe it was a canceled en route or something along those lines.
Why is action 2 so low?
That's med 2. So
Yeah.
Action's med 2.
Yeah, why are
That's the
they?
one that's coming up from, if it's available from Springfield.
Oh, that's not the.
That's not our primary one, though. This is just second call.
So
for
yeah,
our-
I know you said that they tell us they have a second one available. That means it's coming from Springfield?
Yes, they try and get up here when med 1 is out
Okay,
on a call, but that's not always available.
okay.
A lot of that has to do with that overlapping call number. I think it was 592 on the previous slides. You're gonna end up with those, and that truck hasn't even made it up 91 yet. So then that number's a little lower, and then the higher numbers for Amherst, Northampton. This is just another comparison of looking at, month to month from year to year, and looking at some of those numbers. It was just there for a little bit of data for you folks.
And again, this is our A1, this is right to action. And then again, our goals and objectives to wrap this up. Our biggest goal and objective right now is to begin the hiring process. And we have some additional initiatives that, I'll be passing on to the deputy. But review and establish the new timeline for potentially filing for our ALS license. That was originally going to be submitted July 1st of 2025. So we'll have to figure that out. I had told you that we were not going to be able to apply for a SAFER grant, a staffing grant. We're going to revisit that now because we have the override. We'll be working with the gentleman who helps us with that grant to see if now, because the town has provided that, if we would then be applicable to be able to apply for it and see if we decide to go with that track 2 and potentially make those. That would be a 2-year commitment from the federal government to pay salaries and benefits, which would allow us to start building out that the ambulance responses and things like that to bring that revenue in to support those positions. Again, scheduled patient transports. We had talked about that back in 2025, potentially working with the rehabilitation center that's under new management right now to see. But again, that would be scheduled trips. So we would have to sit down with new owners there to see if that would be an option. Again, mutual aid discussions with our neighbors to see if they would be taking advantage of our ALS ambulance. We had discussed, it was brought up at the finance committee, and I believe we discussed it here too, the possibility of a potential ambulance subscription service where people could subscribe to our ambulance service, and then there wouldn't be any balance billing to them. So if they paid $300 for the year or whatever the number is, and they have to utilize the service, we wouldn't be sending them a bill for if it was $1,000 call. We can take a look at that. And then again, continue to work with Hopkins Academy. We had 2 junior firefighters this past year. They were awesome. We felt a little frustrated because we didn't have the time that we normally have to spend with them to bring them in and see if that's a track that they want to go for us. But we are looking for, we're hoping that we'll be able to improve on that again next year and bring some folks in from Hopkins Academy because they've been great. That's been a really, really good program. And any questions? I know you don't like me to talk a lot, but I was told to put all that together for you. That's not my fault.
Who told you to
And-
do this?
Madam Chair, may I ask, just for one more second, I'd like to express a thank you to the Hadley Elementary School. I did my last fire alarm drill today, and I won't start bawling again, but basically I received over 200 thank you cards from all the students that we've impacted, just beautiful signs and all of them in the hallway clapping and coming up and high-fiving, hugging, and seeing all the teachers that I've spent the past 25 years working with our student state program. So I just want to say thank you to them. It means so much to see all these young kids that really believe in being fire safe and have gone through the program. And I'm really challenging our new deputy chief and new fire chief to continue with that program because it's outstanding. We also have it with our seniors as well. Kathy was the first recipient of the Senior Safe Award for a family over at Greenleaf Drive. And we started that program here. Another thing that we're really proud of, but I just wanted to say thank you to them for that lovely presentation. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that lovely presentation.
Any questions?
I don't have any at this time. It's pretty self-explanatory what you went through. I mean, we all know, as I alluded to earlier about the stars getting farther and farther away. So there's some stuff in here that we all know is currently pipe dreams, and hopefully we can, something could come of it, but we just never know. I'm sure Bob's fully aware of the financial situation in this town. We're just going to do what we can to keep things together.
Do you have any questions for us or anything? No? Okay. Anyone else? Comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say Randy, I know if, with the ALS in the future, I think the question though more immediately is if we're looking for new hires, what's the right role? Are we hiring a firefighter, EMT, paramedic, or just a firefighter? So although there's out years out there, I think it's something that, they're looking at now, and it's something that has to be discussed. What does the town want to hire?
Mhm.
I think that's a really important question because it impacts what's happening in the out years. So, I think that's an immediate thing to me that we'd want to discuss or think about. And if there's guidance for that, I mean, I think, it's easy to say what's happening in 3 years, but we'd want to make that decision now in terms of staffing. So,
Yeah.
But I was going to say, if we're, getting back to the levels that we had, then that also means that we would have potentially an opportunity for the BLS. So it would probably behoove us to be looking for not someone who's, going to be ALS, but not just a firefighter in the event with the BLS that they can't transport, right? Just a firefighter can't transport.
Firefighter and an EMT basic would be able to, but then you start running into some other staff concerns.
So I would, want to say not just a plain, yeah.
Basics. Then, there's the union that, the union language as well. We do have a good program in there. And I think and again, Bob will be able to evaluate this more, but we had talked about the transition to ALS, even if it's just for the second calls. What we're looking to do is to try and enhance the revenues coming in. So again, so right now you have 3 paramedics. So we need additional 1, maybe 2, because we're doing APV truck. But you're going to see an increase in those revenues that would support that. You're already paying for 3 people that have their medics.
Mhm.
They're dual trained already, and they're ready to go. So an evaluation and discussions of that with the town administrator and you folks, I think, my recommendation would be at a minimum, like Amy was saying, to get the basics in.
Mhm.
If we're gonna just run the BLS right now, but
Mhm.
Yeah, and the cost difference in the hourly rate between basic and EMT and paramedic isn't tremendous. So
Mhm.
It'll balance the hourly wage for each of those levels, but also what's in the contract. If somebody then chooses to go become a paramedic, per contract, we also now are paying them, I think it's $12,500. So there's some balance of, do we absorb some of the cost up front, knowing what the end goal is, or absorb a significant amount later on, plus the cost of detailing them from shift, it could cause overtime and something like that as well. So it's balancing all of those pieces.
Because they're per the contract, they're paid to their highest level of
correct.
license.
training.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess we need to have some conversations.
Thank you. You're
All
good.
right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Moving right along.
Moving right along to 3.1, the consent agenda. So we have a common vic license for Graziano Restaurants in Hadley, also known as DBA, doing business as Dave's Hot Chicken. We have hawkers, peddlers, and transient vendor permits for Mehet, Gondogudu, US Roadshow Incorporated for July 20th and July 24th.
Probably through that.
Oh, through that. Okay. A lot of dashes. Transient precious metals buyer, an event at 24 Bay Road. I'm not sure the date on that one. And the automatic amusement license for Young Men's Club. And the
What is 24 Bay Road?
It's Hampton Inn.
Hotel, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. So it's the US Roadshow or Hamden Inn. And so we just need them to provide a floor plan with the layout of tables, exits, displays, square footage, dimensions, all that, to
That's
help
for the-
determine occupancy.
Yeah, that's for the building commissioner.
Okay.
We spoke with them. It's gonna be a very small event. They don't require, police assistance or anything like that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to the building commissioner requirements.
I'll second.
All right, motioned by David, seconded by Jason.
You got my name right.
Caustic.
I only have to use your first names. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait,
Oh, wait.
actually, never mind. It's fine. Molly's not here. It's if she was on the Zoom,
Yeah.
it would be. Okay. 4.1, we're going to move into public comments. We're going to have about 15 minutes for this, but please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less so that other members of the public have an opportunity to speak. Is there anyone here for public comment? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Dave's Hot Chicken. Are you here? I'm sorry. That was for the consent agenda, but everything is good and you should be all set.
Oh, wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We look forward to doing business in town.
Thanks, guys.
You're
When
very
are you
welcome.
gonna open?
When are you opening?
We're looking like mid-July.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Welcome to town and you should be all set.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Is there anyone here for public comment? All right. Moving right along to the new business, 5.1, Valley Bike Share. So Nate, you're going to take us away on this?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Nate Malloy. I spoke with Northampton, they have a grant to expand Valley Bike Share. So Hadley isn't a participant in that program. Amherst and Northampton are. I know it was looked at in the past. And so this was just an informational meeting for me. And then, I'm bringing it to you. It's the beginning of a conversation if we'd like to see, is there a possibility to add a few stations in Hadley? There is a cost to it. There would be an agreement with those communities. South Hadley has a few stations. So there is, it's not free. They like to see one, near the malls, near town hall. They don't have to be wired anymore. Maybe one of those stations would need to be, have conduit running to it to be ready for electricity, but they're now almost just like bike racks. So they don't have to be all wired. So the cost of a station is cheaper. It's a 10 by 14 concrete pad. The bikes now have batteries that can be charged differently than previous bikes. And so anyways, this is just to ask the select board, is this something we'd want to consider? If I have any, have any questions for me to relay to Northampton, we have some time. So the funding, isn't running out by this June. We have over a year to really make a decision, but it's just to bring it back up again that they're interested to see if, they could do something in Hadley.
So you said the funding isn't running out. What funding are you referring to?
So there, there is some potential funding for Northampton to explore installing the stations and, investigating what that might mean. So if there's any, fees associated with designs or locations, that kind of funding, not for, say, the annual service fee to be in the program, but just really for the initial startup.
Amy, may I?
Yeah.
So this has come before us 3 times at
Oh.
least in the past, and the issue each time was the cost. And the argument that we got from Valley Bike Share was that this was going to increase traffic at our local stores. People are going to bike from wherever to come do their grocery shopping and do whatever. And one of the questions that I've asked previously in the past was, if this is going to generate so much businesses for these businesses, why are none of the businesses interested in installing these racks, such as behind Whole Foods, behind Walmart, things like that along the bike trail? None of them were interested. So they claim it's going to create all these benefits, but none of the businesses that would be reaping these benefits were interested. And instead, it was relying on the town to pay for the cost at the time for electric installations, ongoing maintenance, installing the stations, all this stuff, when we are already on a tight budget. And there may be a little bit of grant money, but like all grant money, it expires, and then we're stuck paying the bills and the membership fees and everything forever. And so I've got a lot of concerns with the idea, especially at this time for the town.
And even when we weren't in the dire straits we're in, I think the discussion was to exactly what you're saying, David, that the benefit to the town is pretty minimal relative
Right.
to the cost that we would have to pay. So I'm not in favor of this at all.
I don't think Molly was either. Not that I'm gonna speak for her. I was definitely pretty vocal about it last time. I'm not. In theory, it's good, but in practice, I don't think so. And I don't feel. I think last time too, they came in and they said, well, the PVTA, and I'm like, that's very different
Right.
than a bicycle.
Right.
So I understand the PVTA. I don't feel like we should pay for someone else's business to
Right,
keep
yeah.
them going.
And if they can reach out to local businesses, I mean, you got all these businesses right on the bike trail. I'm sure one of them, if there is a benefit, would love to have a bike rack on their
Mhm.
property.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
Just not at the taxpayer's expense, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, if that's fine, I wouldn't mind reaching back out to Northampton to, to ask some of these questions and have a follow-up. I mean, I agree, it's it's like a fee for service that it isn't apparent what the benefit is. I understand that. I was on a state commission for micromobility, and this was a bigger question in other communities, even Eastern Mass. Essentially, it only pays for itself when it actually scales up a lot. And it's an odd thing to think that, but you have to, put a lot of money in and hopefully then get money back. I think the state is aware of these costs. And so perhaps in the future, there would actually be some state money to help. But again, if it's grant funded or if it's not really a steady stream of funding, it's something that the town would have to bear every year. So,
I mean, people are paying to rent them, right?
Yeah.
yeah, it's a subscription. You have to,
But that's paid to Valley Bike Share, not to the town. The revenues are not going to us.
Right.
We're paying.
We don't get anything. for
Yeah,
that.
we're paying a membership fee to support the organization. We're paying to
makes-
install and maintain the stations on the idea that we were going to get some benefit. So
I thought there was a sheet that talked about usage in various places, and the numbers didn't seem that high to me. It seems like it would be really expensive per use.
Yeah, they want it at the mall.
and yeah, I saw something that was like we had 150 starts. Like somebody got a bike from the thing during a time period. So out of a year time period, you had 150 people ride a bike out of there. Seems like a lot of money for 150
Yeah,
bike rides.
at $4,500 a year,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm talking $30. A whack.
We just asked the residents to approve $1.5 million override, so I don't think now's the time to be spending money on something like this.
If it cost us nothing, I would do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
that'll be my goal.
Okay,
See if we can find a way.
see what you can do.
Come back to us if that happens. Actually, the bikes are heavy. So, as an e-bike, to get them started, there was one outside Emerson Hall and people would put their card in and get out. And then someone would fall over because they try to start uphill, not realizing they're heavy and the pedals don't crank easily. And so, yeah, it's not, it was some entertainment.
Well, that's expensive entertainment.
So we're just gonna
Table.
Yeah, that's fine.
table it.
Yeah, we can follow up with Northampton.
5.2. So we're gonna discuss and hopefully vote on a pro-con conservation restriction located in South Branch Road. It's essentially, it's actually part of those original Hadley Kings parcels down on Honey Pot area down at the end. So they're looking for a conservation restriction on there for agricultural use.
Yeah, it's a conservation restriction that allows, a number of different things, including agriculture. So, Procon is the name of the family. The Conservation Commission has agreed to this. So the select board, there's two sets of signatures, Conservation Commission and Select Board. And so if Conservation, has agreed to it, there's a baseline report usually involved done by the town. And then, typically say an annual monitoring, any enforcement would be done by the town. But, we were essentially taking the development rights away, except for what's allowed here through the restriction. So agriculture, different outdoor uses, things like that.
And there's minimal to no cost to the town.
It's essentially a gift.
As far as the upkeep, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So does this remove, right now it's farmland, right?
Right.
Yep.
So would this remove this from the tax rolls basically, where they would not be charged property tax on farmland because it would be unusable conservation land? Or I'm wondering what's their angle? Why are they trying to save on property taxes, or is it just to preserve the conservation environment? I mean, there's got to be some benefit there to the.
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. I think my understanding is with a conservation restriction, there still might be some value, but a lot less, right? So then that's a prorated assessment, so much lower than what it would be. And then it also ensures that anything that happens in the future, this restriction, survives the ownership. So it runs with the land. So sometimes that would happen, an owner would do this to say, whatever happens in the future, this can't be changed in terms of the use.
I would be curious to see what they're paying for taxes now versus what they will be paying for taxes. Just because David brings up a good point. To me, the land's in the floodway, I think.
Right.
So it can't be built on. It doesn't have river frontage, so I don't imagine anybody's going to want to put a camper on it.
Yeah.
So, but because of both of those, because of the fact that it's in the floodway, it's probably not generating much revenue right now, but I think it would be good to know before we vote on it.
And it's 2.25 acres.
Yeah. And they can't put it into APR. It's not big enough. So
I'd kind of like to see if we can get a Google Earth image or something. What are we looking at here? Is it just an open field? There's actual conservation land? I mean,
it's an open field.
It's like the road is like right here, and then it's like a 2.25 acre parcel.
Are you familiar with down there at all, David?
Yes.
So go over the dike.
Yep.
Go down in your first right.
Yep.
Keep going straight.
Yep.
And it's on your left.
Okay.
I think it's like it butts right up to the bike path.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Over there. Okay. I was going the other way. Got it. Okay.
So I would make a motion to table this until we find out what the tax ramifications are going to be.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second that if we need to vote, but otherwise.
No, I don't think we have to vote.
Any other questions related to this or?
Okay. Okay, 5.3 food trucks. This is think something, this is kind of Jennifer's, you and Jennifer's.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's been happening is, especially it's the season, but we're getting more inquiries about food trucks. So, how is it allowed in town? Is it not, for temporary events or for longer stays? Like, could it be 3 weeks or a few months? And so, we looked at what past practice has been and what's allowed now. And so, the attachment was what's on the fire department webpage and what the Board of Health provides. So, if you have fuel, you have to get a fire inspection, you're required to get Board of Health. And that's fine for a 1-day event. I think we're getting more requests for these longer stays, actually setting up and being there for a number of months. And, I think it's unclear if that really can be allowed in Hadley. And so I think a lot of communities actually are looking at this now. When I was in Amherst, we started looking at this because we're getting the same kind of thing. East Hampton, there's the article where they are trying to get a food court to have food trucks, and it went through site plan review from the planning board. And then the Board of Health said, well, there's some questions about meeting the health code the sanitary code. So, there had been a draft bylaw evidently maybe a few years ago from the bylaw committee. And the idea was to make it a license and then put it in general bylaw so it's not zoning. So in the zoning, it does say it's allowed through a footnote through the select board as long as you get these licenses. But I think there's more to consider in terms of what's the right location in town. Can it be anywhere on private property? What's the duration? There's questions. Would it take away from brick and mortar establishments? And, it's just to have that conversation. I think we would like to, Ben, the health department and others, like I said, we've been getting asked this, and Dave Waskevitz, we've said, okay, we don't have great guidance for some of them. And so we can allow temporary events and certain things happening. There really is no restriction anywhere in town, right? So you could actually set up, a small 1-day event. You have to get your right licensing and permits. The question really is what happens if someone wants to do something more, even more frequent? What if it's 1 day a week for 6 months? Is that the same thing as a temporary? And, we could assign spaces in town where it happens. You could allow it everywhere in different zones, zoning districts. It's just to have that conversation. Like I said, I think it's something that could actually be, community building. It could be fun.
Mhm.
It just isn't really clear right now that we, so right now we say we can't allow it because the way our bylaw is written, if it's not essentially allowed, it's prohibited.
So
Mhm.
I'll change it up on this one. This is one I actually support. So I think it's a good way to generate revenue, and it works in surrounding towns. They have that
Mhm.
little hot dog stand over in Northampton there on 5 and 10 or whatever it is. And there's a lot of towns that have stuff like this, and it seems to work. Why we don't, I'm not sure. I could see some sort of restrictions, maybe, on Route 9 or somewhere close by Route 9. So it's not just scattered everywhere, but something we can talk about. I think it's a good way to generate revenue and keep people interested in the town. So.
And there's also some brick and mortars, like in Northampton, for example, like, you said it could potentially take away from brick and mortars, but Local Burger
Right.
has Local Burger. Local Burger has their food trucks. Spoleto has
Yep.
theirs. Spoleto has a food truck. So there, it could, potentially offer another opportunity for brick and mortar, businesses in town as well.
The planning board had a little discussion about this last night. And the thing that I was concerned with is how do we guarantee that these people are paying the appropriate meals tax
Right.
to the town? There's got to be a way to keep tabs on their sales so that we don't get cheated out of that. I agree that I think these things are cool. You go to wherever, we go to Burlington, Vermont every summer, and they have a farmer's market with food trucks everywhere. And it's fun because you get to see stuff that you don't normally get to see or try to, try the food. So I think it's a good idea, but we just have to Nate's point, whether it's for a day or 2 days is one thing. If they want to do it all summer long, that's a whole nother animal. And that would probably have to go for planning board review or something like that, just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. But I definitely am in favor of it.
Mhm.
Yes, I think the idea would be we could have this conversation as the planning board does, also looking at it. I mean, one idea was to try to get something to fall town meeting. So, try to get it on the books, have it in place for, next year. But it is something that could be moving forward in the next few months. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yep.
All right. All right, employee appointments. So Scott isn't here, but did you want to speak on his behalf for the highway foreman?
I could do
Or you
that.
want to do that? Oh, yeah. Sorry, the liaison.
I am the liaison. So, and Scott texted me this afternoon, said he wouldn't be here tonight. And so he's suggesting or to appoint Thaddeus Mish as the new highway foreman effective today. And I guess the candidate pool was not extensive. Mr. Mish is a current employee. And I asked Scott if he was happy with this, with the potential performance of Mr. Mish. Was he okay with him being the highway foreman? And he said yes. So that being said, I have no reason to dispute this recommendation. So I would make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Randy, seconded by Jason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Professional development days.
Sure. I mean, it is plural, but I mean, for now, I think it would just be one day. The idea would be to find a time when town hall or a municipal building could be closed to do staff training, CPR, AED, defibrillator. And then Jennifer, I would try to find some other, things to take up the rest of the day in terms of trainings. It could even just be, file organization and cleaning. There's some things that really need to happen, but really the idea would be to set aside time where we could close doors and let people know. We really like the life safety training. We think that's important. That could just be a half day. And we're trying to find some other trainings that could also happen to make it a full day. But
what about municipal volunteers being included in this?
yeah, no, I think that'd be great. Anyone who, is in a municipal building and can serve in that would be welcome.
Or what about the people that are sitting at this table?
Sure.
We don't, it's not mandatory. I'm just saying, could we participate if we wanted to?
Yeah, no, I used to go through the trainings every year and it was great. Just to even know how to use it, even if you're not the one to do it, just to know, like, can you direct the crowd or, be the one to make a phone call? Because, oftentimes what are they, there's something, I forget what it is, right? Like bystanders, like paralysis, like no one knows what to do. And so just having a little bit of training can really help if it's needed.
There's been 2 instances that I've read about in the paper in the past 2 or 3 weeks about people who were choking and got Heimlicked and saved. So I think stuff like that is very valuable for anybody to have.
And we can figure out, when that can actually happen, but we just want to see if that's something that could work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great idea.
All right. Are there any? Okay, so are we going to do the liaison assignments today?
Well, how about the
Or
town?
we had to wait for Molly?
You're gonna,
Oh, sorry, I skipped right by that. Sorry.
Sure.
Carry on.
I uploaded a pretty big document today. So, what I'd like to do is, once a month, start highlighting the departments. I've asked, for department updates. I changed the formatting around a little bit. So if we walk through it, communications, we held a department heads meeting recently. We discussed, goals for myself and what we'd want for the town administrator's office for the coming year. I'm trying to hold weekly meetings with, public safety, fire, police, on finance, and again, with the schools and working on setting up regular meetings. I feel like, the communication is really important. So just to have, I still have more meetings I want to keep scheduling. I feel like it takes up a lot of time, but it's really important. Finance, just to say we're wrapping up the FY25 audit. It's a really big accomplishment. It takes a lot through the treasurer finance office, coordinating with all the other departments. So we're waiting on the auditor issue report. We're entering fiscal year end. So right, June 30th is the year end. Likely on the July 1st meeting, we'll ask for some year end transfers. So, if budget lines go over, there's some ability to make the budget whole again. And so that happens every year. And then the finance committee is meeting on June 22nd. And again, if July 1st is the date, it'd be a by-board meeting for the finance committee to also review those year-end transfers. With the finance committee, I met with the chair and Pam and Linda, the finance director, treasurer. And so we'd love to have in the next few months, trainings with them and also with the select board information about just general budget cycle and information. We think that'll be really helpful going into next budget process, which starts in the fall. Under personnel, the town has hired or has advertised for a part-time health nurse. It's something that was on the books for a while, and we finally put that notice out. Kayla's position, the conservation agent land use coordinator, was also advertised. So those are things that will be really important to fill. The field supervisor, well, that's something that was just taken care of. And the police department just advertised for a full-time officer. So that, again, that was a vacancy that had been there. So all these positions are vacancies. They're not new positions, but it's really important to try to get those filled. And there's a note on health insurance. Open enrollment had just ended. We've heard from a number of employees that the costs are really high. And so, there are employees that are struggling to pay the premiums, considering, finding other employment because of the cost. And so, I don't have an answer for that, but it's something just to be aware of. And, what could, maybe it needs review in this fiscal year. It's difficult when someone comes in and, there's employees who the cost of insurance is more than they make. And that's a hard sell. And so they want to be here in the community, and it's a big cost. It's not Hadley. It's not just Hadley, right? It's a lot of communities, but it's something that seems really acute right now. And projects and initiatives, there's numbers that have been on pause. I think the big one would be the solar on the landfill. There's some movement there. The prospective developer Sunwealth is no longer involved. It's Solect Energy. And, I met with representatives from the solar committee. There's, a July 4th deadline to try to have a community enter into a contract so that there can be significant tax credits. And the hope would be that Solect Energy would approach the town in the next 2 weeks with proposals for developing solar on the landfill. And then, the select board in the town could enter into a contract or some MOU with them. It's waiting to see if they can move fast enough. But, it's the town council is familiar with them. They do a lot of projects in Massachusetts. It seems like, it'd be a win. They would have to essentially do everything. So the town wouldn't be the developer. Solect would take everything from the feasibility studies. They'd have to do the permitting, design, installation, and manage it all. It seems like, it could be a good thing. It's just, I'm not sure if it'll actually happen. I'm bringing it up just in case they actually need something to happen by July 4th. And department updates, I just, again, I think I'd like to just highlight what the town's doing, at least every month. The collector has a great return rate, right? And this is a really busy time for them. And so, they've been getting bills out. They work with our insurance company. So there's rewards coming back in. All those things are just really important. And so, some people might not realize that we do get the cash back from Maya for certain things. And so that can be used to, purchase equipment, do other things. So there is money there. For Hadley Media, they've been doing great coverage of the sports games and community events. And so, it's kudos to them for getting out there and really, showing, filming what's happening in the community and then making it available. Health department, again, the food trucks. So, there had been some idea that they weren't allowed on Route 9 in certain places in town, and we couldn't find that at all, right? I think there had just been a notion that they weren't allowed in places. Like we just said, we clarified that for temporary events, they are. Long-term, we have to come up with something. I think this septic installation installers is a big one. Trying to find someone who can approve new installers to come in town is something that I know Ben's been working on, and, making sure that can happen. And then some new regs the Board of Health is looking at, banning the sale of synthetic drugs. So that would be, stuff you could buy at like convenience stores or things that aren't really regulated right now. Other communities are looking at that. I'm not sure, if or when that will be ready, but it's something they're looking at. And for the library, again, just to, they're really a community. They also serve as a community center. So, they do, summer reading, they do other events. I've been having meetings over there. It's a great place to bring in out, different groups. So, just highlighting what they've been doing in terms of their summer reading, how many people do it, They had a great volunteer day. And I think those are all really important things. Parks and Recreation, they do a lot with a little, right? So they rely on a lot of volunteers. They work with the schools really well. And so, they've had, the biggest T-ball season to date. I think that speaks volumes to, the dedication of the families and the community, right? It's really volunteer driven. Like the second bullet, they're looking at, trying to figure out pickleball and basketball near the town center. So what kind of amenities can be brought? Here's something that's new that's happening. Bank ESB is willing to sponsor outdoor movies at the school starting in August. It's part of, recreation programming is something that hasn't happened before. So it's kind of exciting to see what will happen. And they submitted 2 grant applications. So, I recently learned that, there's, the fire department has a grant or 2. And, like I said, last meeting, DPW applied for a lot last year. And I think a lot of times, people don't realize it. Staff may not even realize that everyone's applying for grants on their own and they're really trying to, chase the money and opportunities. And it's a really good thing. For police, again, working on grant reimbursements. So, this is great, getting reimbursed for $100,000 in equipment. And, they're going through the hiring process.
So is the police grant disbursements, is that a guarantee, Mr. Mason? Or is that something you have?
Yeah,
to-
these are actually reimbursements. The money has already been spent on all of these items, whether it be training, equipment, things like that. And we're now getting the money back. We're getting the reimbursements back.
Cool. Yeah, so a lot of grants are reimbursement. That's one reason to have, say, a free cash balance in your budget. You have to spend it and then get reimbursed. And so towns can do it through other things like a ban or other things. But if there's a free cash balance and it's manageable, then it's a lot easier than trying to do, like a short-term borrowing. So most of the grants these days are reimbursements. And that's why the fiscal year end is so important. You have to get them in.
You have to get the money back. Otherwise it hits you free cash.
Yeah. So Public Works, they, short bullets, but I think what the work there is a lot. Hydrant maintenance is a lot. I just want to call it the mandatory water restriction. So the state is in this area, we're in a critical drought, and it might be surprising because everything's so green, but
Except by lawn.
yeah, there is a watering restriction in place. And so the state now mandates that for towns. They really want to make sure that we're following that. So wastewater, sewer, the Hadley Amherst sewer design project is underway. Again, that's another grant project. The idea is to see how there could be connections into Amherst, and then continue to apply for grant funding to make that happen. And that's not immediate, but the idea is that what's happening right now is grant funded. And the highway department, it's the season to Chapter 90 funding is going to come in, so prioritize paving and road projects for later this year and for next year. Roadside mowing has begun, and line painting is going to start up. From the schools, the superintendent puts out weekly notices, and it's linked online. And so just, there's a bunch of bullets here. Again, there's grant funding and opportunities that come in. A lot happens with the students. So I think, this is really, acknowledging what they see in the schools. And I think it's really great to see. And it's nice at the end, there's like a little thank you, right? So having someone participate, come in, and then having a thank you back is great, just to highlight. For the senior center here, they're doing a restructuring plan. They're following through with something that's happened there. They have, the senior center here has booked a lot, so great programs. I've tried to schedule meetings here and realized that, you have to sit in the hallway because every room's taken, and that's a good thing. And there are some air conditioning issues. With the new heating systems, they do need maintenance and cooling systems. So, they thank DPW for that. I summarize my weekly emails in here. So it's something, again, just trying to get these are things that you've already seen, and for the public, that there is stuff happening in town. I think, One of the bigger ones is the water asset management plan. And so the town has hired High and Bond, similar to what they do with sewer, to look at all the water infrastructure, public water. And the Hadley system is old. You know, there's some pipes in the ground still that are over 100 years old, 120 years old. And they'll be coming before the select board in the next few months. But, you know, the idea is that all this infrastructure needs maintenance and some replacement, and there's cost to that. They did give credit to the water division and public works for maintaining what we have in really good shape. It's just, you know, at some point there's capital costs and needs there. And so, you know, there's definitely work to be done. You know, again, a lot of communities are in this position where you put in pipes in the ground for water and sewer in the, you know, 120 years ago, and now they need work. And then, you know, just a quick note, the zoning board heard the variance for North Hadley Hall to convert that to apartments and an office space, and that's been continued. There was a question about paving north of the building a little bit into the playing field. It's angled parking. It doesn't really take up much of the field. And so there was just a question about, is that consistent with the deed and agreement with the town? I don't really necessarily see an issue with that. And they'll actually be reducing pavement because they're going to add front lawn in front of the building. And so the ZBA has continued that hearing, and we'll be reviewing it in early July. And just a quick update on Hampshire College. Mass Development has awarded a grant to Amherst. Hadley is a partner there. There's no funding or cost to the town. So Randy and I attended a meeting with Mass Development and other consultants to look at what's happening with the land in Hampshire, owned by Hampshire. And so there's over 250 acres in town. Some of it doesn't have road frontage, but, you know, just to let you know that there'll probably be another public meeting in July. They'll ask, you know, they'll advertise it to be in Hadley, just to hear from what the community might have concerns or ideas for these properties, and there'll be maps. You know, most of the land is in Amherst, but there is, you know, like I said, quite a bit of acreage in Hadley that is going to be looked at. And so, you know, if people are listening to this and you have ideas or comments, let me know. I'm not sure, you know, it could be something that Hampshire does really fast in terms of disposing of it. It's not, you know, it's no one really knows exactly the time frame, but it's something that, you know, they're trying to act pretty fast with Mass Development. And that's it for TA report.
Great. And I was going to say that David's been putting that on the Hadley community page as well.
Yeah, people like your updates.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Okay, select board liaison updates. I believe we've already spoken for the most part about this. I think most of us are fine to keep what we have. Do we
Wait for Molly.
do we want to wait for, I was gonna say, because Molly did respond,
She did respond.
Yeah,
but to wait till we have it all in front of us.
yeah, I think so.
But does anyone have any liaison reports or updates from their current?
Well, I'll just say, you kind of covered it with the solar. I was the acting select board liaison since I hadn't officially been appointed yet to the solar committee for the landfill. And I think there is some good progress underway there. It's just a very, very tight deadline to get the tax credits. But it seems like it's feasible. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, anyone else?
I have nothing.
All right, does anyone have future agenda items for meetings that they want to bring up now that we can put on a future agenda?
Yeah, you know, I'd bring up the town administrator goals, and, you know, for the TA's office has been discussed. Jason had mentioned municipal property. So, you know, I think that's something to look at, whether it's for disposition or just understanding what's there. I think kind of broadening that, you know, a facilities plan, I think could accompany that. So what are the condition of the properties if there's buildings on them? Yeah.
One thing that I think we talked about a little bit was when we were talking about Carr Cider House was probably a good time to start looking at the farmland that we allow people to use or whatnot, so that we can put something in place for next spring timeframe and possibly generate some revenue for the town.
Yeah, it might be a good idea if we could get a list with a map
Right.
of everything that the town owns, buildings, land, whatever. So then we can have a discussion about what we should or shouldn't do with each piece.
Mhm.
Something I've been thinking about is it's not something that we can do anything about other than push our representatives. But there should be a way that towns can build projects without having to pay prevailing wage. I think that's a real burden to put on towns. And again, that's not something we're going to rectify, but if we talk to our representatives and see if they can do anything about that, I think that would be a grand idea.
Okay, anything else?
Skipping executive.
Yeah, we're not doing executive. Does someone have any announcements this evening?
I've got a motion.
I have just some signatures needed down here for the,
I do have an announcement. Just that we no longer have an interim TA. We now actually have a TA. So this evening is Mike's last select board meeting with us. And it's been almost 2 full years to getting thrown into something that you maybe didn't want.
Oh, he wanted it.
No, into something that you didn't really know, didn't really want, but you certainly carried us through exceptionally well, and we appreciate your service to us and couldn't have asked for a better interim to get us to where we are today. So welcome officially 100% here, Nate, and goodbye, Chief Mason. And thank you.
You're gonna miss sitting over there, aren't you?
Not even a little bit.
Any parting words of wisdom for us?
No, when this meeting is over, I'm officially on vacation for a real vacation for the first time in almost 2 years. So I'm waiting for David's motion.
Send it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All right.
All those in favor?
Goodbye, all those in favor.
Aye.
Obviously, aye.